The cystic fibrosis community is still hurting. There's ongoing debates about the modulator drugs with NICE, the government and the powers that be in Vertex for the price of these modulator drugs. I wanted to do this video for the parents of very young children with cystic fibrosis who are new to this community and new to the disease, but also the parents with children in the 10%, where at the moment we just need more money and more research into the drugs to help the 10%, where Kaftrio and Orkambi might not be applicable. I'm going to start this video with some facts. The first one is I have double delta F508 gene. The most common gene with cystic fibrosis, as many of you will know, and quite often the worst. I was born in 1987, when not much, if I'm honest, was known around cystic fibrosis, and the outlook for life expectancy was early teens at best. I've had multiple hospital admissions. My first one was when I was 15, when I caught pseudomonas. I've also had NTM, non-tuberculosis mycobacterium, one of the worst bugs you can have with CF, and I had that for roughly 3 years. I've also had 2 life-saving surgeries, once when I was born and another one when I was 21, and both these surgeries were due to blockages in my bowel. I had 21 centimeters of my intestines removed, and then when I was 21 the same thing happened again. There are some other facts that I want to give you before my life on modulators. At the age of 32, I had the best lung function of my entire life. Bear in mind, I used to run cross country for Wales. I used to play football to a fairly high standard and play rugby too in school. Physically, I was the fittest out of all of my friends, literally bar none. My physical feats, my world record, the World's Fittest Man Challenge, and multiple fitness events over the years came before the modulator drugs. Why am I telling you all of this? Well, because yes, the modulator drugs can be life-changing. They can be incredible for the future of children with cystic fibrosis. But so can sport and exercise. And so can a positive mindset. And I think far too often in our lives, we just rely on a magic pill to make us better. Whereas there's also lots of other things that we can do to be in control, or to certainly control and influence some of the input. Now, I know that sport and exercise isn't for everyone, but your life literally depends on being healthy. Now, not everyone enjoys running, not everyone enjoys football, not everyone enjoys rugby, but there are thousands of activities and sports that children can now try and are far more accessible for their fitness and their lungs. Exercising makes us breathe heavier and more often. And funnily enough, it's a massive help with clearing mucus from the lungs. If we exercise every day, if it's 20 minutes, half hour, whatever the case may be, our lung capacity naturally will be a little bit better. And I'm not saying 10%, 20%, 30%, but consistency and persistence is absolutely key with cystic fibrosis. So let's fast forward to when I went onto the modulators, because my lung function increased by less than 10%. Less than 10%. One of the major benefits for me on the drugs, and we're being completely transparent here, was that I had NTM for a few years before I went onto the modulator drugs. NTM disappeared before the modulator drugs, we got rid of it. The antibiotics didn't work. I went 2 years onto 5 different really heavy antibiotics. They didn't work. I just exercised a lot harder and took all my vitamins, took my medications, and it went. Okay, so there's no rhyme or reason as to why or which part of that. Maybe it was the whole package of things that helped the NTM disappear. But it was before the modulator drugs. But I developed not a cough, but I used to clear my throat every second, third sentence. So as a public speaker and a coach, and I talk a lot, I can talk for Britain, that was annoying. I also used to cough when I laugh. And not necessarily like a little giggle, but if I laughed hard, and I love comedy, I'd end up coughing. And it just made me feel a little bit uncomfortable around, like if I went to a comedy club or in public, it just made me feel a little bit uncomfortable. That coughing and that clearing of the throat left when I went onto modulators. Not straight away, but after 6-8 weeks. So the quality of my life absolutely improved. And I cannot sit here today and tell you that the modulators haven't changed my life, because they have. But what I really don't want is for parents, and especially young children, to depend on something so heavily that if it doesn't happen, or if it doesn't happen today but it's going to happen in the future, because that's the likelihood it's going to happen in the future, that we're not doing something today that we can control. Because if we become dependent on that thing, and it's just a little bit further out of reach, we're always going to be disappointed. And I know this is a really emotional topic. I know it's a really difficult mindset, but it's so important that we set these children up for success. So my advice, sport and exercise as much as possible, as many activities as possible, and creating positive, hopeful stories of actual belief that the future is bright in the cystic fibrosis community right now. Regardless of the modulators, we know so much more about sport, exercise, and what's going to make us healthy. So lean into that and pass those positive beliefs on to these children.